Yes, you are, yes, you are, yes, you are the only one. 'Cause there's something special about you.
People, right now, don't forget, we have that special going on where you could beat me, Brian B. That's right, enter that promo code, save 10%. Do me a favor, show your support, share to the world that you in love with the Beeline Web Show, the Beeline Entertainment. Show it to everybody. Pick up a shirt today. Hit the links in the bio. I appreciate you guys so much. Don't forget, be me, Brian B. Send that promo code, send your video, wearing your new outfit, your new gear, styling, profiling. And check us out on the Beeline Entertainment, LLC.
Yes, you are, yes, you are, yes, you are the only one. 'Cause there's something special about you.
What time is it? What time is it? I'll tell you. People, what's good? What's going on? It's me, it's Brian B. in the year 2023. What's good, guys? Happy New Year. I'm so happy to be here with you guys today. Man, listen, it's been amazing. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, wherever you celebrate. Yo, it's time to celebrate because it's Tuesday, baby. First Tuesday of the year. We doing it like this. Real big. You can't see it, but we got a guest today, and I cannot wait to talk with this person. He is very interesting, and you guys are going to get probably a couple laughs, couple smiles, maybe a couple tears, whatever you're going to get it with me. It's your boy Brian B. with the original show that started it off. Red, white, and black, baby. The Beeline Web Show, where it goes down. I want to thank you guys for an amazing year last year. It's been incredible. I love you guys so much. If you haven't already, make sure you hit the like, make sure you share, make sure you subscribe, make sure you do all that YouTube stuff that everybody always doing all the time. We got some comedy to talk about today, baby. It's going to be a really good episode. But before we do the episode, you know we got to do this. Let's go.
Straight to the point, baby.
It's going down in
3, 2, 1.
People, it's your boy
Brian B. Let's go.
Back on the Beeline. I'm looking forward to it. I'm so excited.
Is the influence you have.
Again with strangers.
You gotta be a clean baby's ass.
Hold on real quick.
Knows the hands of fate.
People, it's your boy, Brian B. Welcome to the Beeline Web Show. Let's go. Yes, thank you guys so much. This is your boy Brian B. Once again, we back at it once again. Yo, listen, there's a lot to celebrate. That's my point. That's a lot to celebrate. So make sure, like I said before, you like, share, subscribe, hit all the things, hit all the comments. We got somebody to talk to today, and we're going to bring him on. And like I said, he's been somebody who's very influential. He comes from a world that I really am very interested in getting to know. Actually, two worlds, because we all know that your boy Brian B. I love horror. So, you know, he was actually involved in one of the, horror movie that you guys are going to know very well. We're going to talk about everything. I'm not going to spoil anything. I'm going to let it come on. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we are getting ready to meet a well-known performer, artist, comedian, everything that you got to talk about within the entertainment industry. It's not the entertainment show, but we're getting ready to talk with Mr. MARC SHEFFLER. Ladies and gentlemen, what's going on, Mr. MARC?
Hey, Brian, man, how are you?
I'm doing amazing, man. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me, man.
I'm telling the audience here, man, that I'm super excited to have you on, speak with you, and get to know you better on this episode. You're a really cool guy. You know, we've been talking it up a couple of days, and it's just, you know, making me more anticipating for this episode here. So congratulations on being my #1 episode of 2023. Appreciate that. New year, new day, man. But guys, this is Mr. MARC SHEFFLER. Like I said, I'm gonna actually just be quiet for a minute. I'm gonna let Mr. MARC go ahead and introduce himself and tell him exactly who he is, so you guys can get to know this man. It's gonna be a very fun time. All right, MARC, go ahead, man. Let him know who you are.
It's funny. A lot of people don't know me until I tell them things that I've done, and they go, "Oh yeah, sure, yeah. Oh, you did that?" And I said, "Yeah, okay."
For real.
The first thing I did that got some recognition was I was one of the 4 stars of Wes Craven's first film, Last House on the Left, made in 1971.
Yeah.
And that got me some notoriety. And then I actually after that, I turned my attentions to writing, and sold the first script I ever wrote, moved to California from New York, and had a pretty good run writing and performing, mostly writing sitcoms.
I didn't know that.
I'm a stand-up. I've done a lot of stand-up. In fact, I'm one of the class of '77 at the Comedy Store with Robin Williams and Jay Leno and David Letterman and Michael Keaton and Steve Landesberg and Jimmy Walker and just a lot of people. And I'm one of these guys. I've just been around a long time. I've had what I call a very successful mediocre career.
Oh, listen, man, don't sound mediocre to me, man.
No,
I'm hearing fireworks while you're talking this shit.
no. It's I've had a lot of adventure, right? Like I've been right there. Like I just, let's just put it this way. I fulfilled every adolescent fantasy I've ever had. So yeah, I had quite a few. Yeah, and I fulfilled them all. And part of them was being in the entertainment business, being what I've done, kind of aimed myself when I was a kid.
Exactly.
And my entire life, I just aimed myself in this direction. Here's the deal. I dropped out of college in 1969. I was at LSU. Actually went to school with David Duke.
And David Duke, I know you told me.
David Duke. A lot of people who are listening will know who he is. He's just one of these cross-generational racists. He was a racist back then, and he member of the KKK.
That's right. Yeah.
He was 18 then. We're the same age, and he was a freshman at LSU when I was a freshman at LSU, and our paths crossed and used to debate each other in Free Speech Alley.
That must have been fun.
Well,
was it interesting? Like, it's something like that, when you hear somebody, it's a really big, demographic in that area. Like, if somebody's like, outward, and known for being racist, I mean, to have somebody on the opposite side at a younger age come out and say, hey, we were, debating each other, was his side usually pretty slanted?
Well, you got to remember, this is 1967. Okay. And things were a lot different then. The South was still very much remnants of the old South. At that time, and I was a Northern kid who, because of a quirk of a family thing, was able to get into LSU as a state student, right? So it would cost like nothing. So I was able to go there, and that's why I was there. And I didn't see anyone, this whole thing about the Confederate flag. Here's the truth about that, because it just brought up a bunch of memories talking about.
Yeah, no, please have the floor.
Yeah. The thing is, and I say this from 100% personal experience, my observation. So what I'm about to tell you is through my lens.
Gotcha.
I never met one person who brandished that flag in any way, shape, or form, whether it was the actual flag, a bumper sticker, a plaque on a wall, a license plate frame, anything, an insignia on a sweater. I never met one person who associated themselves with that thing who was not a racist. Not one. Not one. There weren't any good people waving those flags.
Listen, I don't understand how, man. It literally is the rebel flag. Like,
it is the flag of it is
what it is.
Flag, yes. So there were a lot of. I was an anomaly. I was this Northern, fast talking, soon to be hippie guy, who smoked pot and nobody knew where I got it. And I mean, this was 1967, but at LSU, when they were all drinking beer, I was rolling joints. And yeah. So, and there were a lot of advantages to being that person, because I majored in Southern women, so it kind of helped, right? It's like, dude, I could just string 3 or 4 words together, get a chuckle, and I knew how to cook, and I was having the most amazing time.
Listen, Mark, that's what's really interesting, you know, when you say that. And where my girl at? Like, she ain't here, right? I'm from Jersey, right? So I was born and raised up north too, man. And I was born and raised, you know, 20 minutes from New York City. So I'm city, you know, city all the way. And I moved to Georgia, you know, 10 years ago now, going on 11 years. And it's crazy how you say it, like, because it is a difference in culture, man. And it's almost like, you know, the girls can smell it on you, man. Like, I got so much attention when I first moved down here. It was unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, also, you know, at that time, let's just try to put a parentheses around this so I don't sound like a complete idiot. But at that time, if you could use words that had more than 1 syllable, I know what you're talking about too, right? And you didn't think opening a beer can by smashing it against your forehead was a thing.
That was
you were able. I had a thing. I actually, there were so many women at LSU at this time that I had a system that I created. And that was
awesome.
That why?
This is awesome. I can't wait. I can't wait for it.
Okay,
I'm anticipating hard.
No, man, it's all thought out. It's not like it's all thought out, and it worked. Okay, so it worked. And even in my adult life, you know, beyond that, I used remnants of this. Okay, so my thing was that I scheduled my classes. I never scheduled my classes around lunch or dinner. I scheduled my classes outside of those time frames. And the reason is I wanted to be able to sit on the steps in front of the student union and watch people as they came in and they came out. Okay, that's step 1.
Okay.
So women, several thousand of them, would walk in and out of that student union during lunchtime. I would just sit there reading a book, sort of, which means I was just holding it open and flipping pages. And eventually I'd smile at someone and they would smile back, and that's all it would be. And then they'd see me back and forth, and I'd see them a few times. And then the smile led to conversation. Conversation led to get some coffee. And I would never, my system was, I would never take a girl out at night until I had lunch with her 3 or 4 or 5 times.
Okay. That's really influencing. You want to know something? That's something that needs to be talked about. It's crazy hearing that. Listen, here goes one of these weird beeline situations where this is not the conversation I thought we were going to be having to start off. But I love it. But it's really interesting hearing that, man, because it's like your approach was basically the slow and steady. That's what it sounds like. You were sitting there, you were putting yourself in a position.
Again, I was funny. I could cook a meal because I grew up as a latchkey kid and I knew how to cook. And you know, I was different than those people, than the other, like 95% of the guys. I was a different person. I was like a different creature, right?
Yeah, no, for real. I understand.
I was just completely different. So I would then go out with somebody, and if I wanted, I'd have 3, 4, 5, depending on how much I felt, lunches with them. So when I did ask somebody out at night, it wasn't awkward. It was just comfortable. It was just, you've been there before, only the lighting was different, right?
Yeah,
you know, that's all it was.
Yeah, for sure. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, do you think, Mark, like literally being in that situation now, like, you know, if you can kind of like compare the two, I think that you're absolutely spot on, man. I think that
I did that in my adult life, and several times I'd have a couple of 3 lunches with women, and finally, you know, more than one of them said to me, "Are we ever going to go out at night?" And you know, just to fuck with them, I would say, "Well, I'm thinking about it." You know,
on your terms, right? I mean,
right.
Yeah, it's the right way.
Exactly. And so that, but you see, by the time you get to the night, right? By the time, if you go through those preliminary stages, which can be a matter of a couple of 3 weeks, it's not a long time.
Yeah.
So you go through those stages. By the time you get to the night, you can take advantage of it. It becomes your friend, not something you got to fucking deal with.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what I'm thinking now, because I'm like, the anticipation in dating is kind of lacking now, you know. And I'm just going off of my old, like, you know, ways. I've been together with somebody for 5 years now. I mean, I haven't really, you know, experienced it for a minute, but everything is quick, man. And it's almost like it has, like, you the way that you just approached it. I mean, you can still do it. You definitely can still do it. But you got to think about all the fucking factors now. You got your phone in your pocket with dating apps, so you can just swipe left. We've had this conversation a million times on this fucking show. You can select options at the drop of a dime at any time. And as soon as you get the option, you can pinpoint exactly what you want in the character and shit, like you're building them from a video game.
Yeah, but you know what that does? You know what that does? I have to tell you, just listening to it, I know about it. So, you know, I have a son who's 33. So,
gotcha.
And the other one's married. But I tell him this all the time. I said, yes, you can do a lot of things by holding your phone and swiping left and right and going this and that. I said, but in doing so, you deny yourself life experience. You deny yourself the three-dimensional life experience of you know, like my current wife. We've been together 20 years. The first time I saw her, I was sitting in a coffee shop in Burbank, like on the Burbank LA border, right between Universal and Warner Brothers. A big hangout for writers and studio people, but mostly writers. And I saw her walking up the street and into the coffee shop, and I was literally fucking thunderstruck.
That's beautiful.
And I was fucking floored. And once I saw she didn't have a ring on her finger, and I saw her a couple of more times, and you know, made some inquiries to some friends, I came up with a plan. I knew I was attracted to her, you know, and I came up with a fucking plan. And the plan worked.
It's awesome. Yo, those stories, to me, I love those stories. I'll never forget. I was in a cab, man. I was in a cab one time, and I was taking a trip. I think I was going to work or something like that. And this guy was one of them talkative cab drivers. And he was telling me a story. I don't even know how the hell we started talking about this shit. But he was telling me a story about how he met his wife. And I forgot what I was saying to him or whatever, but he told me the story. He said one time he was driving his wife, he was driving the lady or whatever, and it wasn't his wife at the time, but he had gotten into an argument with her, and he kicked her out the car. And it was he said he kicked her out the car in like the middle of the fucking street, like literally. And he said when she got out the car, he drove off, but he said he felt like a piece of him left the car. Like, I don't know, he was real dramatic and shit. He was like Italian or something, I don't know. But he said he felt like a piece of him left. And he said right there in that drive, he knew that was the person he was supposed to be connected with. And that story stuck with me, man. That was like, maybe I was like 18, 19. I was like, damn, like you can have a connection with somebody. Is that strong? I don't know if he was lying.
Yeah, but I felt a very similar thing. And my wife felt it too. She told me afterwards, you know, that she felt the same thing, you know, and it's like I don't know. You can't really quantify it into words because the words seem kind of thin compared to what you feel. But
that's incredible, man.
But it's true. I knew, you know, like I didn't know for sure that I was going to marry her, but I knew for sure that at my age, you know, I was 50 some years old when it happened. I knew what that was. That feeling.
Got it. Well, but you had some experience at that point too.
Yeah, I'd already been married once. I had 3 kids. You know, I knew and the funny thing is, this is the funny thing. I got very good at charming women, right? So after my first marriage blew up, I just tore it up, man. I just fucking ripped it. And for quite a few years. And 6 months before I met my wife, I was with some girl, and we were getting busy, and I thought to myself, why am I even doing this? You know, it's like when you quit cocaine on your own and you get that spoon up against your nose and you're looking at yourself in the mirror.
Hey, Mark, I don't know how many people are relating to that one right there. You just picked like the most unrelatable situation.
I don't care. And you got that spoon up against your nose and you're looking at yourself in the mirror and the little voice in your head goes, why the fuck are you doing this, man?
What are you doing?
There's no experiences here. You done everything. You had women snort cocaine off your dick. What do you want more than that, man? You know, that's it. So yeah, it's like I'm with this girl and I just said, you know, just stop. You know, I can't do this anymore. I just can't. And she said, well, what do you mean? And I said, look, I got a problem. You know, it's like I'm very good at act 1 and I'm very good at act 2. It's just act 3 I want nothing to do with. So,
bro,
you know,
you ain't alone. I'll tell you right now. I thought it was only me with that shit, man.
No. So I stopped seeing women for 6 months. I went on like a cleanse, right?
Yeah.
I stopped seeing people. I just didn't want that anymore for a while. I knew I had to stop because I was a lunatic. I was just, you know, I was back to my old ways and, you know, just charming the shit out of people and then just moving on. So I stopped for 6 months and then I met my wife and I knew that when I met her that wasn't going to be any of that shit. I knew it.
Yeah, I feel you, man. I love stories like that, man. Like I said, like, you know, it reminds me of like stuff that I've been through too. I said the same thing, just like how you said it. Not the coke shit, but but like I stopped dating for a year. I stopped dating for a full year, man. I just cut out everything. I was getting to a point where I literally was over there. Just why am I bothering with this interview process? To all these girls who literally want to get, you know, laid and shit faster than I do at this point. It's crazy when that transition happens. The girls are trying to get it harder than you are trying to get it. And I was just like, listen, I can't be a part of this shit, yo.
I grew up when I came of age in the middle of in the mid 60s, which is the sexual revolution, man. You know, I can't tell you this is what hipped me to the fact that everything didn't really always have to be my idea, right? It's like I remember the experience of understanding that I was often a character in somebody else's play. And I came to grips with that and said, yeah, that's okay. I'm down. It's okay. I'm in. Just, you know, let me know. I don't object to that. Doesn't have to be always about me.
Hey, listen,
you know,
hey, try new shit.
My pants come off the same way. It doesn't fucking matter. You know?
I feel you. Hey, Nick. Hey, I keep saying Nick. I don't know why I keep saying Mark. Nick is in my head. I got Nick in my head. Mark. So listen, great start to this conversation right here, man. That was amazing. So I got to ask you because you know you went to school and you went to LSU. You said you dropped out of college. Right. So where did the ball start to turn to the amazing career that you have had? You know, well, let's start from the beginning.
It started long before that. You see that picture above me right there?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's me when I was 10 years old with the Three Stooges. And the history of that picture is that I had a really unusual father. My dad was a custom silk suit wearing, Cadillac driving, pinky ring having, aluminum siding salesman, right?
Sound like Ric Flair.
In the golden age of aluminum siding salesman, and he was kind of this legendary character in Pittsburgh, where I'm from. So I lived with him because of some quirky legal shit. I lived with him as a single parent, right? So I was approaching my 10th birthday, and he came to me and he said, "Hey, look, yeah, you got your 10th birthday coming up. It's a special birthday. It's a new decade, double digits, and it's the most important decade in your life so far." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Well, because you're going to enter it a little boy, but when you're finished with it, you'll be a young man." And he said, "It's a huge transition, so it deserves a very special present." And I said, "Okay." He said, "So just tell me what you want. And if I can make it happen, I'll make it happen." So I said, "How about the Three Stooges?" He said, "Okay, let me look into it." And so next day he called a friend of his who was the booker of a nightclub in Pittsburgh where the Stooges used to perform, was on their circuit called the Holiday House. And he found out that they were going to be there the January after my birthday in September. So my birthday would be in September. And then, you know, then the following January, the Stooges had booked for 2 weeks in the Holiday House.
Gotcha.
So my dad came to me and said, hey, look, you can have the Stooges. I'll make a deal with them to, I've already talked to their agent. I can make a deal for a private show. It just has to be in January. And I said, yeah, sure. Okay. So over the next 3 months, we invited maybe 60, 70 people. And my dad set it up. And I think it was either the first or second week, Saturday afternoon in January of 1959. He had the party for me at the Holiday House. And middle of the show, Mo stops the show and he says, I understand we're here to celebrate Mark's birthday. Where's Mark? I raise my hand. And then he says to me, hey, Mark, your dad says that you're Pittsburgh's #1 Stooge fan. Is that true? And I said, it is. And I know all your material. So Mo took that as like a challenge. And he looked at me and he said, oh, really? Well, I'll be the judge of that. Why don't you come up on the stage with us? And I didn't know what to do. Right. And my dad leaned over to me and he said, no time to explain this now. Just get your ass up on the stage.
Yeah. For real.
So I went up on the stage and I started doing the Niagara Falls thing, you know, Mo, Larry, the cheese. Slowly I turned step by step, right? And I jumped into like the curly role, and the Stooges were getting like the biggest kick out of it. Mo stops everything, puts his hand on my forehead and says, I dub you the fourth Stooge, right? And everybody went nuts. Now here's the moment, man, the thing you were talking about. This is where the winds at my back pushed me in this direction. Yeah. I felt in that moment, you know, if I were to film it, the little boy would be on stage. Mo does and says what he says. And then the camera just slowly moves around everybody, right? Like uses him as the center. And this wave hit me. Everybody applauded and screamed and ranted and by the time it got to me, it was this warm tsunami, man. It just covered. And you know, I didn't intellectualize it then the way I do now, but now I look back and based on what I know I did after that, I must have just been thinking, I want as much of this as I can get. And this is, I felt so at home on the stage, right? I didn't feel intimidated. I don't remember feeling intimidated or, you know, I felt more like I belonged there.
Yeah, man.
So
damn, this is influential as hell, man. So that's crazy.
So that's from that moment on, I just became obsessed with television and movies and watching as much as I could and just absorbing and you know, knowing material and just understanding. I just went nuts. And, you know, this is all I've ever wanted to do. I never had any ambition to do anything else.
Yeah, but you know something like you just said, the ambition and what I mean, it came from an amazing place. The fact that your dad was able to introduce that to you and kind of like, you know, bring on your passion is incredible, man. That just goes to show you what your parents really have, you know, for their children. Yeah. How was your dad able to, you know, besides, you know, he was doing the siding and stuff like that, was he just persuasive? Like, hey, listen, I need Stooges.
My dad was an absolutely amazing salesman.
Gotcha.
He was a guy who could, like the saying goes, sell ice to an Eskimo. Right. He just he had a gift, right? Yep. He had a gift. He was legendary. I mean, in that world, he was probably I know for a fact he was the top guy for a long time. I just know from my remembrances of you know, the way he was treated and you know, how financially successful he was in his really good years. He was the king of the hill.
Mark, you know what's crazy, man? I'm like probably like half your age, man. I'm like 35. You know, you definitely have a lot of experience in life. You know what I'm noticing as I'm getting older, man? Your character and how you carry yourself and how you view the world is fuck the college, fuck all the other stuff or whatever, is the biggest part of what's going to make you you know, successful. I'm starting to notice more and more, man. It's not about, you know, how many times you're studying in a day. I'm not saying it doesn't help. It's not about how many classes and degrees you got. It's literally how you're fucking carrying yourself, man.
Yeah, that's true. That it's all part of it. But I went to college. I just, you know, like when I left LSU, I went to I wanted to go to California, but my dad said to me, no, not yet. He said, you may end up there, but not yet. He said, you should go to New York and you should go to the Catskill Mountains, right? And this was 1969, so it was at the tail end of its heyday, but it was still jumping. It was still, you know, right up there.
So what was that? This is my first time hearing of that. Cascade Mountains?
The Catskill Mountains, about an hour and a half outside of New York, north of New York. And in the Catskill Mountains were a bunch of resort hotels. And those resort hotels hired big name entertainment. Gotcha. And they were just thriving. I mean, they were like busy all the time. And it was the center of stand-up comedy in the United States at that time. And for many years before, you know, it was an era, right? You get a chance.
I never heard of this.
Oh yeah. You can look it up. You can look it up online, the Catskill Mountains. And you'll
awesome.
see.
I never heard of it before. Yes, it's a great story.
Yes. It was the center of stand-up comedy. Every comedian in the United States, right, would play the hotels in the Catskill Mountains in the summertime.
Gotcha.
And
okay.
So I dropped out when I left college. My dad convinced me to go there and get a job. I bullshitted my way into the job of stage manager at one of the bigger hotels called the Raleigh that had a 1,500 seat nightclub. Right?
Gotcha. Yeah, I heard of the Raleigh before.
Okay, so that's where it was. The Raleigh was in the Catskills, like the Concord and the Raleigh and Grossinger's and all. That's the area.
Okay. Now I know. Okay, yeah, all right, that makes sense. Yeah,
so,
it's crazy.
So I got immediately friendly with a guy named Sid Zalkind at the Raleigh, who was the general manager. He was this kind of Jewish Frank Sinatra character, right? Like, gotta come blow your horn. And he just took a liking to me. He just, you know, his brother was the head bartender and his other members of his family. And Sid was this suave tuxedo wearing guy. And he and I had a rapport. So he hired me to be the stage man. I talked him into it by sort of bullshitting him that I had some experience, but I ended up knowing how to do it. So I worked at the Raleigh for a year. And during that time, I saw and worked with and got to know every comedian who played the Catskill Mountains during that time frame, right? Like I interacted with them all and worked with them. So I'd sit in the light booth and I'd watch and I'd learn and I'd see jokes, you know, joke construction. And I didn't parse it out as to what it was, but looking back now, knowing what I know and having the ability to express it, I know that I was absorbing how jokes were written, how routines were being written, how audiences were responding. So I started doing, you know, writing a little stuff, and I'd go into the city and go to little clubs and start doing it and back and forth and back and forth. Then during the year, I got friendly with a comedian by the name of London Lee. Okay. And London was a guy probably in his late 30s at the time, or about late 30s. And his whole act was that he was a poor little rich kid, right? That he had so much money and it messed him up, and he had all these jokes about his parents and their money. And he truly was that rich. I mean, I know this because I ended up going to work for him. So, and at the end of a year, he came to me and he said his road manager's leaving. Would I like the job of being his road manager? That he'll move me down from, you know, from South Fallsburg, where the hotel was, where I was living. He would move me down to Englewood, New Jersey, near his house, get me a place, set me up, and I would be driving his car so I could use car that, you know, it was like a gig, right? It was like a wonderful. So I said, yeah. So I became his road manager. And about, I don't know, a month, 2 months into that, I wrote a couple of jokes that he used on stage that he thought were really good. Then I became part of his act, doing a bit that he had done with his previous road manager. So I was on stage, you know, out of his 45-minute show, I was on stage for like 5 minutes with him. And one night at a place called the Nevele, we do the bit, and it was like really like a burlesque bit. You know, he would say to the audience in the middle of the show, I'm a little thirsty. I need a glass of water. And then he would look to the wings and he would say, Mark, can you bring me some water? And I would come out with a glass of ice water. So on my cross over to him, he would do a joke. He would say to the audience, that's Mark. My father got him for me, right? That's part of his shtick, right? He was that rich, right? So I hand him the water and he said, thanks. He said, I got a question for you. And I said, what? He said, who am I? And I say, oh, you're the boss. He said, well, who are you then? He said, me? I'm nothing. He said, well, what does that make me? And he said, makes you the boss over nothing. So that would get a laugh, right? The audience would laugh at that. And I would just leave on that, right? Take the glass, I'd leave. So this one night at the Nevele, Saturday night, full house, I go to leave and I hear him behind me say, hey, wait a minute. I turn, I said, what? He says, come here. So I walk over to him. Now the audience is like wondering what the fuck is going on here. And he said, I don't feel well, man. I got like a cold or something. I'm coming down. He said, can you do 5 minutes? I said, are you kidding? What? I shit in my pants at the same time. It was the weirdest feeling. It was like
excited.
I was the most excited I had ever been in my life.
Yeah.
And I was shitting in my pants out of fear at exactly the same moment.
I believe it, man. I fucking believe it.
So I grabbed the mic, you know, he introduces me, gives me a nice little build up. I go down and I do like 5 minutes that I had, and they laughed. And I hear from him from behind going, all right, get the fuck off the stage.
He want too much of that shit on
it. Wait. So, you know, I give him back the mic and we finish the show. We're driving back to New York, and actually to New Jersey, Closter, New Jersey. He lived in Closter, New Jersey. And he said to me, you know, we're not going to do what we did tonight every night. And I said, London, it's just like first time I had sex with a girl. I just want to do it once. I just want to get it over with, right? I want to cross that bridge. I'm now on the other side. I fucking did it. You know,
man.
He said, and he looked at me. He said, no, you did real well. He said, you did really well. I'm proud of you. He said, you did real well. So I had all of that, you know, it just, I just did, and then we did that more. And I ended up doing probably with London, like 150 club dates, and ending up with 2 weeks at the Copacabana
I've actually been to Copacabana. I believe I think it's the same club in New York, right? I'm pretty sure we went. I think my cousin went like a contest or something like that. And we went and saw like a car kind of expo, and then we went to the what is it called? The Copacabana club afterwards.
You know, and then I stayed with London for about a year. I quit working with him. And then went around, did a couple of commercials, and then within a few months got Last House on the Left. So,
and I'm glad you transitioned into that, because I know you're talking about your beginning in your comedy, and which is, you know, phenomenal. And one thing before we jump, because I do want to get into Last House on the Left, because I know I want to definitely know a lot about, you know, the Comedy Store and all that.
Okay. Yeah, we get to that. It'll circle back. It'll circle back to that.
Beautiful. Okay. So when you were at the what was it called again? How do you say it? The
Catskill Mountains.
Catskill Mountains. When you were there, you said they were like the late 60s. Who were some of the comedians that were on in that time?
Alan King, Don Rickles, Freddie Roman, who just passed away, Mal Lawrence, just, you know, Jerry Lewis would play. Lewis played the Browns, not the Raleigh, because that's where he started. But everybody, I mean, just, you know, everybody who was a working comedian back then, this was your bread and butter, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Because these hotels were rocking and rolling, and they would spend money to have big name entertainment like 5 nights a week.
Yeah, that's crazy that the hotels are what's like showing showcases like that, man. Like it sounds like, you know, like Atlantic City or something like that or whatever. I can't believe that was all coming from a hotel, like a luxury resort.
No, these hotels, they were booked solid for the summer.
That's crazy.
By July 4th, every major hotel was booked for the summer.
Is this similar to that now? Do they still do that?
No, they're closed. Many of the hotels are closed. The era is over. You know, it's not like
so no. I mean, but comedy's still at like, I mean, comedy's
but there are a bunch of clubs in the city now.
Gotcha. Yeah.
You know?
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. You got the comedy club specifics now.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's real interesting. So yeah. So well, that was freaking great. You know, beginning story, man. So it sounds like you kind of had your, you know, pay from having the Three Stooges at your in Beeline. I mean, if you guys don't know the Three Stooges, man, come on, yeah. Larry, Moe, and Curly. I mean, the Three Stooges for me. I wasn't as up on the Three Stooges. My grandfather was big on. He got us on Laurel and Hardy.
Yeah,
Laurel and Hardy. I mean, to this day, I watch Laurel and Hardy sometimes at night to go to sleep.
Very funny guys.
I love, man. I'm a huge like classic fan. Like I love that stuff. So you know, my dad was always big with the Little Rascals and stuff like that. So Three Stooges was like one of the top ones. I mean, one of the biggest ones. I'm kind of mad they don't really put that stuff on no more that much, man. You could find it, but
yeah,
you really play it.
You know, it's a different type of comedy. I mean, it's I laugh at it, and a lot of what I'm laughing at is like moments of my youth, you know, because I remember how influential, and especially after I was on stage with them, then, you know, then that became like extraordinarily influential.
Yeah, I bet that probably opened the doors. I mean, in a way, you kind of have them to thank for your you know, career that you kind of, you know, experienced.
I have my father to thank for it.
For sure. Yeah, for sure, man. Your dad definitely, you know, blew it up. I mean, that actually got me self-reflecting on. I'm about to go upstairs to my kids, like, yo, listen, y'all, what do y'all want to do? Like, we didn't start it.
You know, and then after I got successful, he'd come out and hang out with me here. And he loved hanging out at the Comedy Store and the Improv and hanging out with all the comedians. My father knew Jerry Seinfeld before I did.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my dad. Used to be a comedy club in Pittsburgh that I believe was called the Funny Bone. Could be wrong.
Okay, yeah, Funny Bone. I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and in the 80s, before I met Jerry, you know. He would come to work that club. And my dad, having been out to LA and hung out at the Improv and the Comedy Store, knew a bunch of comedians. And whenever they would come to town, any of my friends were playing that club, my dad was like the unofficial host for them. He would drive them around. You know, he would make sure everybody was okay. He was very accommodating that way. Yeah. So he called me up one day and he told me he met this guy from Long Island named Jerry Seinfeld, and you know, he's going to be really big, and he has my phone number, and he's going to call me when he comes to LA. So sure enough, one night I'm in my house in Laurel Canyon, and I pick up the phone and I say, hello. I go, is this Mark? And I said, yes. He says, hi, my name's Jerry Seinfeld. I'm a friend of your father's. And I said, hey, how are you? He said, you want to meet or something? I said, yeah, come on, I'll meet you there. So I met him at the Improv. That's how I met Seinfeld the first time, a friend of my father.
That's crazy, yo.
Yeah, right?
That's really crazy, man. Your dad was a guy, man.
No, he was, listen, my dad was, you know, there were times I had to wind him back, you know?
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. That's so cool that your dad was able to give you so much experience like that, yo. And, you know, and that's at a time where, you know, who would have known Jerry Seinfeld was going to be the guy that he turned out to be, man. You know, here's a fun story. So we talk about Seinfeld. Your dad knew. Dad apparently was one of those people, man. He knew what was going on. He was the it guy.
He managed right after World War II. He managed a nightclub for his uncle, my great uncle Sonny had a nightclub. In Pittsburgh, and my dad was the general manager. So he he had lived a version of that life. That
makes sense. Yeah. Okay, that makes a lot of sense, man. Yeah, I was gonna say I watched I watched Seinfeld, man. When I was younger, I didn't want anything to do with Seinfeld. I didn't really know too much about it. It wasn't a big thing. I was My comedy guy was when I was younger was Martin Lawrence.
Yeah,
I
very
was
funny guy.
show Martin, man. I loved that. Will Smith on Fresh Prince and Martin on Martin. I was in love with it. But Seinfeld, I didn't want nothing to do with it. I wasn't hitting me when I was young. But now, as a grown up, I watch Seinfeld every single night. Every night, I've watched every single season on Netflix to go to sleep. You know, it just puts me in that mental state where I can go to
Yep.
sleep and enjoy the show, and I can wake up and watch it in the middle of the night. Yeah, it's a great show. Such a great show, and I used to hate on it when I was young.
It's,
Yeah,
beyond
great show, really great show. But so that's very interesting. So yeah, man, you got me captivated over when we were listening on every word and shit. Like, it's really good. This is my field, man. I like I'm not a comedian. I've never done stand up. I want to. I'm actually trying to do something this year where I can just get on the stage and just try it. But I love it, man. I've been a comedy fan forever. Like I said, Martin Lawrence was like, he's my favorite actor. Jim Carrey. I mean, these guys. I grew up watching classic comedy, man, and being a fan. And then as I got older, I kind of just, Joe Rogan's and Joey Diaz and all these guys, like I fell in love with these guys, man. Louis C.K., Dave Chappelle. I've always been into this. So, to speak with you now, and you have so much history and knowledge and, and influence in this craft, man, it's incredible. But, so you left off and you were getting into right where we were getting into the horror. This is my other field, like horror. So
what happened was I had a manager, and again, I'm writing a book right now about my life, my career in my life, and the title of the book is Dumb Effing Luck. And it's just, I look back and I repeat more than anything else. Boy, I was lucky then. Boy, I was lucky then. Boy, I was lucky to have that. Well, I was lucky at that time. I had a manager, and my manager was same company that had Tom Jones and Engelbert Humperdinck at the time, gigantic stars, Lloyd Greenfield and Associates, and Dick Towers was my contact there, and he was a wonderful guy who took very good care of me. And one day I walked into his office, and he said, I have a movie audition for you. And I said, really? He said, yes. Here's the phone number. Here's the address. Go down and ask for two guys. One's name is Wes and one's name is Sean. Two young guys, two young filmmakers. They're wonderful. Tell them I sent you and that you're the guy I sent for the role. So I said, okay. So I went down there. I met a guy named Wes and a guy named Sean, Wes Craven and Sean Cunningham.
Yeah.
And I did the audition. They said, thank you. I said, you're welcome. And I went back to Dick's office. And by the time I had gotten back there, they had called and said, that's our junior. That's who we want.
Yeah.
So he said, you have the movie. And I said,
so you got it right away? Like
I got it the same day.
So did they explain to you like what they were looking for when they first, or was it kind of one of those auditions where you walked in, did your piece, and walked out?
No, I walked in, and I said, what scene are we doing? And they said the dream sequence scene, the dream scene. I said, yeah, okay. So I laid down on a cot. Lay down on a cot. I just did it. And I did it a couple of times. Wes said, could you, do more of this or less of this? And, some minor tweak. Yeah. I said, yeah, sure. So I did it, what he wanted. They said, thank you again. I said, you're welcome. Went back to Dick's office. Dick says, well, they want you. You have a movie, young man, your first movie. And I said, okay. And there it was. I had a great fucking time, man. It was like, I learned the fundamentals of everything I know right now, right? Fundamentals of everything I learned about how to make shit. Not everything I learned, but the basics. Everything I learned in the 4 weeks that we were up in Connecticut.
Really? Making the movie?
Yeah, that's what we shot. It was 20 days, 4 weeks, 4 or 5 day weeks. And the basics of everything I know. Like so many times I've been on sets, and I've seen, you know, it's like always problems, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of what producers do on a set is solve problems so a director doesn't have to face and deal with them, right?
So a producer solves the problem so the director doesn't have to deal with it.
Yeah, if you're a good producer on a film, you get out ahead of the whatever problems are coming, you know, that way, so that the director can concentrate on making the movie, so that the director, so he or she doesn't have to, you know, deal with it.
Got it. I completely understand. Yeah.
And it's just, even if you're the creative director, even if you're somebody who's working, you know, you co-wrote the script or you've been involved with the it's incumbent upon a good producer to run interference.
Yeah. For
a director, you have to do that. You have to protect them.
That makes a lot of sense. And you want to know something? I'm listening because Wes Craven, The Last House on the Left was Wes Craven's first movie, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And so you had a part in Wes Craven's first movie. Now,
I was one of the 4 stars. I was on the poster.
Exactly. Yeah, you were you one of the main guys, one of the bad guys, one of the bad guy here.
Good bad guy.
Good bad guy. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I saw The Last of the House on the Left a long time ago. My parents didn't hide me from shit, really. I was watching horror movies and stuff like that, you know, even at a young age. So I knew of it even then. I didn't know what it was exactly. I didn't know that until I got older. But The Last House of the Left, Beeline, you know, for whoever knows, it's, you know, it's a classic, you know, Wes Craven, you know, Nightmare on Elm Street, all that shit. This movie is pretty intense, man. It's like it's graphic. I mean, it's very direct with yeah. So how did you feel like having that be your first part? Was there any kind of, besides like the excitement of oh shit, I got a movie, you know what I'm saying? Because this is before Wes Craven is Wes Craven, you know what I mean? Like this is the beginning.
He was just Wes.
Yeah, so it's like, did you kind of, once you started seeing the script and you were like, man, this is fucking crazy, like I'm in this, like this is me.
Well, the script that we shot that became the film was not the original script. There was another version of it called Sex Crime of the Century that was like a porn version of what's on the screen, like just out fucking slasher porn, right?
Yeah.
And once Wes had all of us locked in, the cast, all of us said to him, "Nah, we're not doing that shit. We're not going to do that." And so Wes, you know, kind of knew, you know, and to his extraordinary credit, went out and, you know, rewrote everything, a bunch of shit, and we got the script that we ended up shooting. So it's a weird thing to work on a film that becomes something more than you ever thought it was. You know, like you asked me.
I can't imagine, man. I can't imagine how that feels.
The first time I saw an answer print, which is the completed film with all the elements, right?
Yeah.
Was at a screening at a Filmways Post House on the west side of Manhattan. And it was like a cast and crew and investor screening, right?
Yeah.
So I remember standing with David Hess and Fred Lincoln outside of, you know, on the street afterwards. And we all kind of had the same thought. We all said, you know, it was really great meeting you guys because we're going to be friends forever. And we were, you know, I was friends up with Freddie and David up until they passed away. But no one's ever going to come and see this piece of shit. And we laughed and we, you know, maybe we'll work together, but man, this was who the fuck would come and see this? And it was made for $93,000, I think, funded by a company called Hallmark Releasing, who owned a chain of drive-ins in the Northeast, right? So they did some kind of, you know, calculus where if they made a movie and spent X amount of dollars, they would get their money back plus X amount of dollars. If they only could run it in their theaters over 3 or 4 years, they'll make, you know, maybe 1.5 times what it became like financially worth it for them to do. That's why they did it. So the film, Sean makes about 30 prints of the film, which, you know, in the world of feature films, it's not really a lot back then. So he makes like 30 prints, delivers them to Hallmark, and the film comes out, and it's doing exactly what Hallmark wanted it to do. It's a scary feature film for their weekend date crowd, and it's, you know, scaring couples across the Northeast, right? Scaring the shit
crazy
out of
fucking
people.
movie, man.
Yeah. So somehow Roger Ebert got a hold of a print of the film and screened it, and then wrote a 3.5 out of 4-star review of Last House. And literally, in the most literal sense of literally, overnight, everything changed. Sean got an order for like 1,000 or 1,200 prints the next day after that review came out. It got pulled out of the drive-ins and got picked up by a mainstream theater distributor, and it was now opening in like 1,000 theaters nationwide in, you know, in real movie houses. And I got sent back to Pittsburgh by the PR company to open a film, to open it at a theater in Pittsburgh. And I mean, just everything changed. And that lasted about, I don't know, like 3 weeks, 2-3 weeks, that thing. We were like in the top 10 films in the United States for like 2 or 3 weeks.
Awesome.
And I laugh my ass off, because when I look at, you know, I'm writing a book, I told you about my life. And when I write down the things that I think I've accomplished, right, or that fate has put me in a position to say I accomplished them. Yeah. I was one of the stars of a top 10 movie in the United States.
Unbelievable, man. Cult classic, whatever you want to call it.
Right. And I can't even use the verb I did that, except to say, yes, I did that performance, but I didn't do the rest of it. I was part of it, right? But there I was, part of it.
Listen, this is an interesting conversation I've been having with people who's been coming on the show recently, man. The importance of marketing and promotion. Like you said, man, you were doing something and you were a part of something. Y'all was laughing like, "Who the fuck's gonna watch this shit?" Like, the thing is, only thing that it only has to be seen by one person to put it in a whole different stratosphere, man.
That is true. That is 100% true.
When I do this stuff, I sit here and I do these, you know, sometimes I do them by myself. Sometimes anything. Anybody sees just one fucking person that just clicks on the button the right way, the right time, whatever, and they see something, and your whole life is completely different, man.
Yeah,
that's the power.
My dad used to say something like that when it came to these jobs that he would do, these siding jobs. He would say, I need one. All I need is one. I just need, all I need is one to listen to me. That's all I need. And he was a calm motherfucker about it. But go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you. But
no, you're right, man. Because it's funny when I'm listening to what you just said about the movie and everything, because I was thinking nowadays, like, just to put in the same kind of understanding, you know, when you make a video and it goes viral, it's the same kind of effect, man. It's like, you know, you take one video or one, you know, film, one whatever, and somebody gets it, you know, Roger Ebert got it and he, you know, played it, and then all of a sudden now it's like, wait a minute, what's that? It's buzzing, and then people want to fucking be a part of it. People want to see it. That's all it takes, man. Dude,
I'm telling you, I got sent back to Pittsburgh to open it. Here's a lift from my book, and it's actually the body of a TV series I've been working on called Those 7 Years.
Okay.
When I was 14, my dad and I were in a theater in Pittsburgh, in downtown Pittsburgh, called the Stanley. And it's one of those grand, ornate, you know, kind of old school theaters with balconies and red velvet and you know, gargoyles all over the fucking place, and a big stage. It's just an old, beautiful theater.
Yeah.
Turned out that theater was part of a chain from Stanley Warner Theaters, right? And my father's cousin, Larry Nee, was the general manager of Stanley Warner Theaters for the Pennsylvania, Ohio, and West Virginia tri-state area. So and his office was at the Stanley. And my dad and I, and you know, a bunch of other cousins, everybody in the family, used to go to movies for free because we were family. We were Larry's family, and we had these family pass things, right? We could just, they just knew who we were. They wouldn't charge us when we went in because we were family. And then we got free popcorn for everything. Everything was free when we went there, right? So we were watching Jerry Lewis in The Nutty Professor. It had just come out, right?
Yeah.
Theater was filled. Audience loved it. The movie's over, you know, at the end. And they're playing end credits and lights come up and we stand up getting ready to go. And according to what my dad told me, I said something to him like, Jerry Lewis is the funniest guy in the world. And my father said, yeah, he's pretty good. And I said something like, oh, wow, I wonder what must that be like to be in the movies, to be a movie star, to have that be your job. So my dad very matter-of-factly said to me, well, maybe someday you'll find out. So then I said, oh, come on, you know, seriously, me and
Unreal, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And my dad looked at me and he said, hey man, you're as funny as most everybody I've ever seen on that stage or on the screen. And somebody does this job every day of the week. Why not you? And you know, I said, I had no answer, right? I had no answer. So my dad and I made this little, I don't even know what to call it. It's like father and son pinky swear bargain.
Like a pact.
Pact. That's a good one. And I said, okay, Dad, one of these days I'm going to star in a movie up on that screen. And when my father, and I said to my dad said, and when you do that, I'll hire the limo and the two of us will go to the movie together, the premiere together. And we went like that. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's when I was 14 years old when we made that deal. 7 years later, Last House on the Left gets an order to open in Pittsburgh, and it opens at the Stanley. So my father remembered the deal we made. And that night when it opened, he had hired a limo and the two of us drove to the movie together, completing the equation of the deal. That's and awesome, so I have a TV series that I've worked out, and it's from the promise, from the beginning of it until the fulfillment of the promise. And it's the journey in between. The
journey in between.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
It's called Those 7 Years. And
that's awesome, bro.
It takes my character through the journey of making that promise to fulfilling the promise for his father.
That's fucking awesome. Hey, man. Yeah, Mark, damn, man. You had a really, 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 really fulfilling life, it sounds like, man. Just hearing your stories right now. I mean, I was like listening to some stuff that you've done previously and like, you know, but this story right here, man, is very influencing, man. Very motivational as well. Yeah, so, you know, congratulations on,
I told you about aiming myself, man. I fucking aimed myself here.
There you go. It's beautiful.
I didn't aim myself hoping I'd bounce off something else and get here. I just aimed myself straight at this.
Yeah, and that's even, you know, believe it or not, you said it to me earlier when we were talking, like that 1 foot in front of the other, man. It literally is how you have to do things. You have to just make sure. And even what you were saying earlier about, you know, hey, Dad, this I can't do this. Like, this is too much. You have that kind of feeling when it's to things like, you know, making a movie or, you know, whatever you want to do as a dream for yourself. It seems so unobtainable. It seems like it's so much bigger than what it is until you get on that set, like you said, and you realize like this is that or whatever. I did a movie. It's like an independent film or whatever with the show. And it was the first thing I ever did anything like that. And like you said, man, it was like so different than what I thought it was going to be, like being able to see how it's done, like what's needed to get done. But when I sit back and I realize like the guy came here and kind of set some stuff up and recorded some things or whatever, and then I went somewhere and did some recording with him. But the experience of like you said, I just did a movie. You know what I mean? Like I was just in a movie. Like I just did it. It didn't hit me really. You know, it was kind of like, oh yeah, it's just that happened. I didn't really think of it like, you know, if that would have went somewhere and somebody picked it up and that could have been one of the biggest selling things of all time, maybe. Who knows? But it's just very interesting how everything seems so unobtainable until it's just like you can do it. So somebody breaks it down for you.
My old man used to tell me, if you can dream it, you can see it. You can do it.
For real, man. Sound like a cat poster, but it is really fucking real.
He was just that way. He it's funny. He never he never pushed me in any direction. He only pushed me once I found my own direction. You know what I mean?
Very interesting. Yeah, man.
He never pushed me to do anything in particular. He only pushed me once I found it.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's a very interesting way to look at it. Like I said, I'm struggling now with my kids, man, trying to give them any kind of development for character building. Because it's hard with these kids nowadays, man. There's only certain shit they like. But in your case, you know, if your dad was allowing you to kind of discover yourself, but then help you once you've reached that, you know, beginning of the discovery or whatever. I mean, some things just work, man. It doesn't mean it works for everybody, but some things just work. And it sounds like it really worked in your situation. It sounds like your dad really did an amazing job, man. That's phenomenal.
I have 3 adult children, all very happy, all, you know, living in the world, doing shit, functioning. And I look at them sometimes and I'm not sure whether they got that way because of me or in spite of me. You know, it's like, or maybe a little of both. So I asked each one of them and they're convinced it was a little of both. All you can do with kids, you know, like I learned from my father he just sort of loved me unconditionally. And that was the foundation of everything. It wasn't very complicated.
Yeah.
I didn't have to earn his love. I didn't have to do anything to get his approval or his love. And neither of my kids never had to do anything special to get my approval or my love. Never. And because that's a sadistic thing to withhold from children.
Yeah,
you know,
for purposes.
Based on the fact that you think you're going to use that as a teaching tool. I wouldn't.
Man.
I think you don't use love as a teaching tool. That can never be in question.
Yeah, I think some people don't have much to use though, and that's why they kind of do. I was listening to some weird Michael Jackson thing where he was talking about what his father used to do you know, the Jacksons and stuff like that, about like, you know, how he used to beat them and just kind of use, like you said, use kind of like, you know, fear to guide them into perfection with stuff like that. And I don't understand. I would never do it with my kids. Like you said, man, it just sounds like you definitely had a you know, good upbringing, and it definitely factored in.
Yeah, I was, you know, again, I've been lucky, and I was lucky to have the parent I had. I was lucky I ended up living with him and not my mother at that same time.
Gotcha.
Things would have probably taken a different turn. You know, I was lucky I had somebody who understood what I wanted to do was an actual thing.
Yeah, that's really crazy. That could have been super different just from that one, you know, changing factor right there. Let me ask you though, Mark. So with The Last House on the Left, and after you got done with that movie, was there other movies that did it like open the box? Like, wow, this was big. Let me try to do something else.
It really didn't. What happened was I did some commercials after that, right? And I did some stand-up. And then things got very, very slow. And I left New York and I went to see my dad. I went to Louisiana to see my mother. Came back. Went to New York. So, you know, now I'm compressing time. So now, you know, like some time has gone by, right?
Yeah.
So what happened was a couple of years have gone by, and during that time, during the Last House moment, my access to women, which at the time was extremely important to me,
gotcha,
was prodigious, to say the least. Right? I told you I got sent back to Pittsburgh to open the movie at the Stanley. And while I was there, several young ladies from my high school graduating class, who a scant 3 years earlier wouldn't give me the time of day, were offering me a whole lot more
Oh yeah.
than the time of day, which I graciously took.
I feel you.
Right?
Yeah, man. Had to be
Yeah.
a whole different experience.
So during one of these moments, I sort of separated mind and body, and I thought to myself, this is a pretty good career choice. I mean, look at these benefits, you know.
For real.
So then, you know, I enjoyed that. Then things got weird and dried up, and I had to come up with another modus operandi, right? I had to come up with something else because I got, you know, used to very quickly another way. So I was at a party one night, and I see a guy and a beautiful model-esque kind of girl, just beautiful, over by where the snacks were. So I mosey over there under the guise of being hungry, and I listen to what's going on. And this kind of average-looking guy is saying to the girl, "Yeah, so I finished the second act last night, and I'm about to start the third act, and I got to get going. My agent in California really wants this script because the studio's going crazy. I mean, who knows? You know, they could pass on it, but I think the you know, everything's pretty much of a lock, and I'll just do this in a polish, and I'm gone." And she was like fucking wrapped up in it, man. And they left together. And I thought to myself, I could do that. I could tell girls I'm a writer. So I went out and I bought a bunch of books on writing, and I developed this rap where, you know, I was a writer working on a project, and every time I did it, it got better, and, you know, the bullshit got thicker. And it started to work. Didn't work the first few times because I was new at it, but after maybe a month of working it out, it then became flawless. You know, if it was the right girl, it was flawless.
Yeah.
So one day I was in the middle of this in a reception area of a commercial production company that I had done some work for, owned by commercial director N. Lee Lacy. Now, you may not know who he is. Are you a football fan by any chance?
Mediocre.
Okay. You ever hear of the name Mean Joe Green?
Yes, I have heard of that.
Okay. This guy, N. Lee Lacy, was the director that directed that very famous Coke commercial with Mean Joe Green and the jersey and the little boy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that famous commercial. This guy, Lee Lacy, who owned this company, he's the director who directed that, won a Clio for it.
Gotcha.
And I had worked for him over the years, and we'd become friends. So I'm talking to this girl, and things are going great, and she's about ready to hand me her phone number when I feel a tap on my shoulder, and it's Lee. I turn around and say, hey, how are you? He said, listen, come over here. I want to talk to you about something. I said, what? He said, I heard what you were saying to that girl. I want to read that script when you're finished. I have an agent in Los Angeles. I'd love to send that to him. Maybe we can do something. So I felt weird. I said, Lee, look, you know, we're friends for a long time now, and you've hired me, and I want you to keep hiring me. So I'm going to be real straight with you. I'm not really writing anything. I said, you're not? I said, no, man, I just do that to get laid. He said, how's it going? I said, it's now flawless. It works every time. And he said, Mark, if you can get women to take their pants off by what you're saying to them about writing, maybe you should sit down and actually write something.
For real.
So, you know, I was a kid, man. I looked at him in the most innocent way possible, said, I never really thought about that.
Yeah.
I never looked at it that way.
You're all faking it till you make it and shit.
Yeah, right. So he said to me, take your time, write that script, and when you're finished, give it to me. So it took me maybe like a year to write it because I'd start it and stop it, and I didn't know what I was doing. So, you know, I'd start.
Yeah, for real. It's hard, man.
Yeah. I got it done, and I sent it to him. And he said, okay, I'll send it to my agent in Los Angeles at William Morris. And he sends it there. Maybe I'd forgotten about it pretty much. Months, 6 weeks later, he calls me up. He said, how'd you like to move to Los Angeles? I said, what do you mean? He said, well, my agent sold your script to NBC. He said, all you got to do is say yes, and they'll make the deal, and they'll be your agents. I said, yes. I said, fuck yes, man. Yes, abso-fucking-lutely. Yes, yes. He said, okay, I'll make your travel arrangements. You leave next week. And that was in February of 1976. And that's when I moved from
Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I was Pittsburgh and going to New York and living there part of the time in Pittsburgh part of the time. Then I moved from actually I went to see my dad to say goodbye from Pittsburgh. I left to go to California. And
what was the I don't know if you're gonna get there. My bad for interrupting. What was the script that you wrote?
Oh, it was called The Unseen, and it was about a bunch of venomous snakes that got loose in Central Park on a Sunday.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah,
I'd hire you too.
No, we started pre-production. They had hired a director. Everything, you know, I'd done some rewrites. They had another writer come in and help me out, and everything was going forward. And then I get word that it's not happening anymore. They're just paying everybody off. NBC changed regimes, and when that happens, they flush out what the old people had, so they can make room for their new stuff.
Yeah, and HBO Max just did that same shit, or Warner Brothers just did that recently.
Yeah, that, you know, welcome to television. I got a name, but you know, I had money in the bank and an agent, and I was starting to get you know, and they got me into the Comedy Store. William Morris got me into the Comedy Store.
Got you. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So when I was here, your story has been fucking phenomenal, man. What you want to know what's crazy? I'm listening to every word that you're saying right now, and I'm kind of just like, you know, I'm computing it. But I think you said to me, I don't know if you said this to me earlier on this call right now. Lucky is like, I'm not saying that you're not talented. I'm not saying anything like that. But damn, bro, like you have luck, like on your, you know, tattoo on your ass.
What is the title of my book? Dumb effing luck,
bro. Listen, man.
I'm the first. Look, I'm the first one to acknowledge it. Yes, this is what I've wanted. Yes, I had pretty much the career I wanted. I'm still having a career. Thankfully, I'm still working a bit, but yeah, the luck just, you know, just fucking luck
follows you, man. Yeah, for sure. Definitely a great thing. Some people just have it. There's some people. My cousin, he used to. This motherfucker just. I don't care where he was at, man. He would just win those fucking red ticket raffle things. Wherever there was one, he would all TVs. I mean, he won like 6 of them. Shits. I don't even know how.
Part of it. You know, it's there's a lot of luck involved. So, as I told you, I'm part of the class of '77 at the Comedy Store, right?
Yes, man. Amazing.
Yeah. So. All of us arrived at the Comedy Store in late 75, early 76, around the same time. Robin got there a couple of weeks before me, and Letterman had been there like a month or two before I started. So everybody Michael Keaton was there. All of us were there, right?
That was a shocker to me. Michael Keaton. I didn't I said, I didn't know Michael Keaton was a comedian.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So what happened was William Morris asked me what I wanted to do, and I told him, you know, writing sounds great, whatever, you know. And they said, well, do you want to do stand-up? And I said, yeah, that'd be great. So they called the Comedy Store, and because it was William Morris, Mitzi said, you know, she didn't know who I was, which was, you know, perfectly normal. She would give me a time on a Monday night, which Monday night was, you know, potluck night. But instead of having to stand in line and maybe get on, maybe not get on, she guaranteed me at, you know, 10:15 I'd go on stage. So I said, that's reasonable. That's fine. So and guys were just, you know, they were there for weeks trying, you know, months trying to, you know, just get on that amateur night, right? Forget about
just to kind of beeline, I know I'm kind of, I'm not even being a host and shit. I'm just listening to the story. So the Comedy Store is like famous. I mean, if you guys don't know, famous, like, you know, spot where, you know, so many up and coming comedians have came up, like Mr. Marcus saying, literally for, you know, years, decades even. I mean, it's still up and running, you know, after, which I'm glad to say, because I know I went through some stuff with COVID.
Yeah.
But if you know, 90s kids out there like me, you know, Pauly Shore, Pauly Shore is Pauly Shore, surfer, you know.
Yeah. Now the co-owner of the Comedy Store.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. His mom was the owner of the Comedy Store in LA.
Yeah, she started. So anyway, so I a couple of weeks before the day set a date I'm supposed to go on, right? So a couple of weeks before that date, I started hanging out at the Comedy Store, and I was just blown away. I mean, the shit they were doing, the quality of the material, the performance, the shit. I saw Steve Bluestein, Tim Thomerson, Skip Stevenson, and Paul Mooney on the same night, and just about quit. Just said, nah, fuck it. I'm just gonna stay with the writing. This just way.
I'm trying to tell you, man.
These fuckers are they're just, you know. So, you know, I did this in my head, and then you know, I realized, no, I've done plenty of stuff on stage. I'm not intimidated by the performance. I just need better material.
Mark, real quick, man. It's very interesting that you're saying that, because this part of the story I didn't know, you know, earlier. Coming from where you came from before, up there in New York, when you saw Don Rickles and Jerry Lewis and stuff like that. It's crazy that, you know, you've been in that atmosphere.
Yeah, man. No. Here's what it was. Here's what it was. I don't know if you caught the last thing I said. I wasn't intimidated about the performing aspect of it. Okay, that was what, you know, like the level of performing. I could match all that, right?
Yeah.
It was that I needed new material. The material I had been doing that worked in the Catskill Mountains would have just fallen flat on this audience.
Gotcha.
It was just be the wrong material. Not the performing part. That didn't bother me. I could,
gotcha.
I felt, arrogant enough that I wasn't intimidated by that. But I was smart enough to know I needed better material. I needed real material. So I had 2 weeks to do it, right? So I wrote feverishly for the next 2 weeks, and I wrote a brand new 5 minutes, a very current, hip, LA 5 minutes. And I went on stage the first time, and it worked. Everything worked. Some better than others, some because I didn't know yet how to perform it because it was brand new, right? So I went back and I rewrote, cut, clipped it, looked at it objectively, made some performing notes, went back the second time, and again with a time certain, and I went on stage, and it was exponentially better, right? What I had done to improve it was sufficient to improve it, and I knew then how to make it even better yet, right?
Yeah.
So now they invite me back the third night for the third Monday night. So this is my third Monday night at the Comedy Store. So here's the scene. It's completely fucking packed, right? Like jam fucking packed. I have a 10:45 time spot, which is, it is the center of a bullseye, right? For a comedy club to have a 10:45 time spot on a packed night.
Gotcha.
Mitzi was showcasing another comedian. So she was in attendance in her booth. Okay? You get the scene now?
Got it. I'm picturing it.
All right. All the comedians before me did great fucking jobs, which you want them to do. You don't want...
Yeah.
The last thing you want is for the comedians in front of you to go into the toilet because you have a much, much harder job.
Yeah, I got to pull them out. Yeah, man.
Pull them out. Right. Even that's a Herculean task, right?
Real.
That you never get the credit for, but if that's the case. So I knew all this going in. So I go on at 10:45. I knew where the audience was. all I have to do is hold them there, and it's going to be fine. Well, it turns out the audience, that audience was just fucking just greased up, man. They were just lubed up, and for whatever reason, they went for what I was selling. So I walk off stage to a thunderous fucking applause. Like, it was the applause, that had built up for 7 acts, right? It was just thunderous. The audience was on an applause roll, right?
Yeah.
So I saw Mitzi. I walked off the stage and I saw Mitzi sitting in her booth, and I thought to myself, I don't give a fuck. I just don't give a fuck, right? Because it's like, I don't, being a stand-up is, fun for me, and I love it. But I have an agent. In a moment, I said, I have an agent. I'm going to meetings. I'm getting writing jobs. I just don't give a fuck. So I walked up to her and I said, hi, Mitzi. And she said, hi, Mark. And I said, hey, does it have to get any better than this? And she said to me, she took a pause and she looked up at me and she said, well, all right, call in for spots. And that's how I became a regular. And that's why my name's been on the wall at the Comedy Store for, 40 plus years.
It's fucking awesome. Do you still go back? Are you still going back?
Yeah, they're very nice to us there. And all of us.
Man, I would wish I could see this show, man. I would love to see this.
I don't perform. I haven't performed there, but I.
Oh, you haven't performed?
Oh, I go there for events and, every now and then. I am back doing stand-up, but I'm just, kind of doing other places right now because I live outside of Los Angeles. Gotcha. Even though I have a place there, I don't go there that much. I live out near Palm Springs.
Gotcha. I've never personally been to California. I mean, I've never personally been to that side of the world, but hopefully, I'm changing my life around now in a lot of ways. So I'm hoping to really experience a lot more, man.
But yourself where you want to be, bro.
Yeah, Mark, I'm telling you right now, man, your story right now is definitely fucking influencing because literally, like my mind state changed just with our conversation yesterday, but now really today.
If you shoot if you want to hit a target with an arrow, do you try to bounce that arrow off like a bunch of other shit, or you just aim right for the target?
Right for that target.
That's it. So just aim yourself where you want to be.
You're right, man. You're right. You're right. Hey, Mark, man, this has been an amazing fucking conversation, bro. I mean, literally, like the episodes where I can kind of be like, I'm literally just sitting here like I'm just enjoying this shit for me right now. So I know that they got to be enjoying it. But your story is absolutely amazing, man. I mean, I'm literally talking to somebody who created, a piece of history. No matter how you look at it, you were a piece of art. You were a part of history.
Well, I'll tell you
Last House of the Left.
Yeah, I'll tell you something to that end. Remember, I told you the story of us standing, David and Freddie and I standing outside saying no one's ever going to see this piece of shit, right?
Yeah.
So, I was in Colombia last August. My wife is a Colombian woman, and we spend 3 months a year there with her family. Okay. So we were at the tail end of our most recent trip, and I got an email from a friend of mine with a link to the Museum of Modern Art in New York to an exhibition, an upcoming exhibition. And it turns out that Last House on the Left was one of 6 films that was exhibited at the Museum of Modern Art as part of an exhibition, the theme of which was films that have a visceral effect on the human body. So we went from who's going to come and see this piece of shit to becoming a cult classic to then being elevated to the level of an exhibition at the Museum of Modern Art, which completely fucking blew me away.
I'm trying to tell you, man. Just listening to it right now is just like fucking incredible. Like, man, listen, it's crazy because I'm on my journey. I feel like I'm beginning, and you're, on your journey that you've been on. And man, it's like it's just reassuring me.
You want to hear another story like this?
Sure.
Okay. Again, think of the fact that I believe my life has some really weird, unusual shit going on in it that just is inexplicable that it happens, other than the fact that it happens. Okay. So in 2010, I had kind of reached a conclusion that I was never, ever going to be a showrunner, like a big time sitcom showrunner. Right.
Yeah.
I worked on a lot of stuff. I had an extraordinary life, but that thing had passed me by. I got close a couple of times, like real close, but for reasons that it never happened. Right. So been high up, but not like that, except, you know, once in a kind of a infomercial situation, but other than that, not the way I wanted to. But, you know, again, grateful for what I had. Wasn't going to let that ruin my life, because I had other things I was doing.
Yeah. So
then I get a call from a friend of mine who had just been to a place in Cuba to do a screenwriting seminar, because my friend was a well-known screenwriting instructor, worldwide well-known screenwriting instructor, and also a sometimes writing partner of mine throughout the years, you know, somebody I've known a long time. So he tells me that I knew he was there at this place, and I actually was kind of jealous, because as a child of like the Cuban Missile Crisis, I always wanted to go to Cuba to see what was all the hub, you know, like what was all the bullshit about, right? But again, one of those things that you want to do in your life that become way out of reach, so you just fucking pass it by.
Yeah.
So my friend tells me that the studio place that he was at to do the screenwriting seminar asked him to supervise the writing of a sitcom pilot and a second episode, and that he passed on it because he didn't feel he was the right person for the job, but that he recommended me. So he said, they're going to contact you. So I thought about it and I said, wow. So they contacted me, and we made this very small deal that they would fly me there, you know, give me all the paperwork I needed, put me up. If I would supervise 6 Cuban writers to through the process of a pilot and writing a pilot and another episode. Talked to my wife, and I said, well, my wife is, you know, my Spanish is okay, but my wife is Colombian. She has to come with me.
Yeah.
They said, okay, well, she can come with you. We'll pay for that. So in July of 2010, my wife and I flew from here to Mexico City to Havana. So now I'm already like one of my major goals in life, just out of nowhere happens, that I get to go to Cuba, that I've had a fascination with my whole life.
Yeah.
So I go to Cuba. They pick me up in 2 weeks, which is like record time for writing. I have these 6 writers develop a show. I guide them through the process. I nurture them. I get the scripts written and turned in to the guy who hired me like 3 hours before the deadline, the deadline that we had.
Yeah.
Done. Completely fulfilled it. So my wife and I were sitting in the cantina having a beer, and this guy shows up, and he's just thrilled. He's just, oh man, he said, we went through these scripts, they're great. This is exactly what we wanted to do. We're just perfect. Thank you so much. We can't, and I'm just like, well, you do this long enough, you know how it works. You just guide people and, get the best out of them. And yes, you're the best. They love you. they're the best. And my wife helped a lot. Yes, your wife, we love her. You know, we love you. And listen, we've decided to make these shows and we would like you to executive produce them. So, you know, I thought to myself, I really don't want to do it like this because it's just, you know, it's been there, done that with this. For some reason, I just said, they offered me, you know, what they offered me. I said, look, it's not, I just don't. So here's the thing. Let's digress for a sec. When I was a kid, I had this weird fascination with growing up and becoming an adult and doing at least one thing that nobody had ever done before. It's just like a dumb kid thing, right?
Yeah.
But so I used to really think about this. But as I got older and I realized that, you know, I'm never going to cure cancer and I'm certainly not going to fly a rocket ship to Mars or
those crazy unobtainable things.
I'm not ever going to do that. So again, one of my childhood things that you let go of because the reality of you know, life just takes precedence.
Yeah.
So the guy starts sweetening the deal and he tries to offer me more money. And it's like really not, you know, it's Cuba. So it's like, you know, gas money, you know, it's like, no, really it is. It's like,
I feel you.
Yeah. It's like, you know, it's like not even sushi lunch money. It's like,
yeah, it's like, did you know what you're giving me here?
But I didn't do the first thing which was a much smaller amount. I did it because I wanted to go to Cuba, right? I wanted to,
yeah. It was fulfilling something for you. Exactly. Yeah.
I got a chance to see where the Cuban missiles were, and you know, I just my first trip, right? So the guy looks at me and he says, "Well, this is a big disappointment." And I said, "I'm sorry, I just don't want to spend 5 weeks here and you know do this, and it's just not right." So you know, it's a big thing because although the sitcom was invented by a Cuban, which it was, Desi Arnaz, right? Invented.
Oh shit! Yeah, that's right.
Multi-camera sitcom, right? We've never done.
Damn,
we've
I
never
noticed
done
that.
one. Yeah, we've never done one here in Cuba, and we want you to do it. And you see, no one else has ever done this here. And when he said no one else has ever done this, my ears perked up. I said, "You mean nobody has ever made a sitcom in Cuba?" "Oh no, you would be the first."
Oh shit!
I said, "I'm in."
There you go.
I'm in.
Damn, man.
Fucking universe just hands me. So here's the thing. Having not achieved the goal that I wanted to be a showrunner in a sitcom on a network, right? I went through this bizarre crisis of confidence, right? Like, did I really know anything, or was I a total fraud? Or, you know, like maybe that's why it never happened because I'm just full of shit. And, you know, I really don't know anything. I just kind of skated through things. So what happened was during this 5-week period that I went back and started pre-production and went through the entire process to delivery of 2 episodes fully mastered, right?
Yeah.
And ready to go. Everything that I had ever learned about how to make a TV show came into play. From dealing with an actor who decided this is the week he's going to come out, right?
Oh, damn, yeah. It's a hell of a time.
Right? Or to a crew that goes on strike because the rice isn't ready. To, I mean, a set designer who, you know, wouldn't get out of the 40s. I mean, just shit that I was dealing with. I had to fire one of the directors that I knew I was going to have to fire the first of the 5 weeks. After 1 week with this person, I knew that she was going to just not work out. And I went to the people and I said, "I got to let go of her." "Oh no, you can't do that. We have a deal." I said, "Trust me, she's going to leave on her own, or I'm going to get rid of her, one of the two, because she doesn't want to do this. I can tell she doesn't really want to do this, and I don't want anybody, you know." But again, being the experienced guy I had, I went to the guy, the director that I had of the few that I was working with, who was the best, And I said, learn her part. And he said, why? And I said, I'll tell you if I need you, but you need to learn what she's got, her thing. You need to know it better than she does. He said, why? I said, doesn't matter now. It might matter in the future. Just please do what I say. You're the best I have. And he did what I told him to do. And sure enough, when I got rid of her, he looked at me. He said, how did you know? And I said, fucking 40 years of experience, man. It was in her eyes. I could see it in her face.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, for real.
Knew it. But that's what I mean about getting out ahead of problems.
Yeah. Yeah, Mark, listen, I'm gonna be dead ass real with you right now, bro. I can't wait to read your book, man. I mean, just listening to this now, and you're also speaking to somebody who, I mean, you know, at this point, man, you know, you're one of the first people I talked to, like I said earlier, when I'm in my journey with, you know, our fellow friend, and it's literally hearing stuff like this for me right now is like, I feel like it's exactly like, I kind of feel like I'm in my place where I need to be. I feel like, you know, I'm getting spoke to what I need to be spoke to continue my journey on my success and shit like that.
Well, yeah.
So it's needed, man.
We don't, anyone tries to tell you that they own this kind of knowledge is full of shit. We're just all renting it, and it's our obligation to pass it on.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I definitely agree with that, man. And I mean, I can't wait for I have my opportunity to pass it on, and I try to do my best now, which is a little bit I got. But hey, man, and Mark, this has been one of the longest episodes I've had in a long time, and I mean, I've humbly enjoyed it. I knew I was going to enjoy talking to you. I just from, like I said, the conversation we were having yesterday, I was like, man, I can't wait to talk to this guy.
Yeah, that's what it is, conversation.
Yeah, I love it, man, and that's the reason why I keep it this way. I don't want this full. Oh, hey, what did you do? Check mark. Okay, I want the. I love that you got on here. You talked about your pops and, you know, and everything that you've been through, and, you know, you're married. I mean, even the relationship stuff. It was all fucking gold, man. It's you too. You know, that's another thing I love about this shit.
You don't shy away from it. This is who you are.
Yeah, man. I love it, man.
Another thing I don't do is I don't let 73-year-old Mark beat up 20-year-old Mark. You know?
Gotcha. Yeah. There's so much change that even like as me at 35, like looking back at, you know, 20 and, you know, my mind state, even like I tell my girlfriend all the time, like just how I think about things, how I act towards things, like the progression from this stage now, like, you know what I'm saying? Like you don't, some people, I hear people say all the time, actually I get mad with people sometimes because they make these big, bold statements. I'm never doing this again. And I'm like, how the fuck do you know that, man? Like, you have no idea. Life is, if your life ends tomorrow, maybe you can say some shit like that, but life changes. You change,
we're all works in progress, man. We're all works in progress.
Such a true statement.
It's just
such a true statement.
It's like, you know, like me, I'm kind of like, I retain the immaturity that I've always had, right? Like I've done a lot of shit in my life. Like I've been, you know, hung out with stars and flown on private planes and made movies and TV shows and, you know, just traveled and been played. I still think the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life was when I was 12 years old in summer camp, and one night the kid in the next bunk lit a fart
on fire.
Yeah, and
awesome.
And I looked and I couldn't believe it. I'd never seen that anything in my life. I'm still floored by it. Like I close my eyes, I can see. Like I hear it. I hear a guy say, "Hey, watch this." I look. I hear a lighter that wheel, the Zippo lighter, like contacting the flint right at. And then I hear singeing of butt hairs, and then this fucking blue flame, man. This fucking blue flame lit up the dorm, and I went, "Wow,
that's crazy!" Yeah,
that's the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Shit, sounds like it to me right now. I don't even see it.
Man, it's one of those things, like, you know where you were with the Kennedy assassination. You know where you were with 9/11. I know where I was the first time I saw a guy light a fart.
You know why? It's just the little things, man. Sometimes it's just the little things, yo. They don't gotta be grand.
But I'm like 73, man. I still think about that.
Bro, listen, that gives me hope. That gives me hope for the future, man. I gotta get there. So gives me hope. I love being immature, man. I love being a big ass kid. I still to this day. And like you said, like you see it in your kids too, because my daughters, I'm loud and energetic, and my daughter, she'd be running around the house yelling, and her mother's like, "Well, what are you? That's definitely your father." Yeah, I love it. Hope she never loses it, man. Yeah,
I have
that character.
I have kids who roll their eyes at me because
I'm
so fucking silly. Yeah, because I was never like I loved being a parent when they were little, but I hated the discipline part of it because I needed adult supervision myself. So it was like I used to my kids tease me now because they had a code for when they knew I was getting mad at them. One of them would yell spaghetti and fish, and the reason is because they hated spaghetti and fish, and that would be my thing. If they pissed me off, I'd make that for dinner. So that was like the height of my discipline was to make a hot meal that I knew they wouldn't like.
A bad dinner for them.
and then tell them they had to eat it, right?
Yeah.
No, I was not very good at the discipline shit.
Discipline sucks, man. I hate having to yell at my kids and shit like that, especially like you said, man. I mean, I was wild when I was a kid, man. I was really fucking wild. And then it's like, to this day, like I tell people like, yeah, I got 3 kids, and people are like, you got 3 kids? I'm like, yeah, man, I'm a dad now. I mean, I was shooting bows and arrows through fucking neighbors' windows and home alone in people's houses and shit. I was wild when I was a kid.
Okay, so listen, the reason I have like the kind of wide view of shit that I have, didn't happen for no reason, right? So I grew up in a bubble, in an upper middle class bubble, like it was like an unbelievable bubble. It had restaurants, and it was like this social thing in Pittsburgh, in an area called Squirrel Hill, and it was a real bubble of very upper middle class. And when I was summer of the 9th grade, okay, I had flunked algebra twice, and I had to have algebra. I had to pass it to move on. So I had to go to summer school, and the only place they had summer school was at a high school that was an African-American high school in an African-American neighborhood in Pittsburgh, in the inner city of Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And every day my dad had to drive me there, and I would go, and it was the summer of my awakening to the rest of the world. And it was the summer I got out of that bubble and realized and realized other people lived other ways than I did, and that's okay. And that's okay. And I started hanging out with these guys, and I just sponged it up, man. I just sponged another culture up. And just that was the summer I learned by experience to appreciate other people.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome, man. And everybody learns in their own like kind of way or whatever. I mean, if you're lucky, there's some people who, just live one type of way and they think that that's the only way, still, even with all this fucking, experience around them or, proof around them. So, I mean, it's good that you had the chance to kind of like, get outside of your means and live differently or see people live differently.
It's the summer that I got woke. It was, to use today's word. And that was
commercialized word now, man. Fucking everybody say that shit.
Yeah, that was like 1964, 1963.
Does it bug you out sometimes, Mark, to just know that you're saying the year I did this in 1963, and then you look and we're fucking 3 weeks from 2023, Back to the Future times and shit.
I'm still alive saying it,
bro. Well, that's another accomplishment you got, man. You know what I mean? Like you've lived a luxurious life, man. From what I hear.
Well, it's incredible, bro. It had ups and downs, but mostly ups.
Yeah. I mean, all life's got ups and downs, man. But I mean, for the stuff that you were able to accomplish, man, much, and not for nothing, not to take nothing away from you at all.
No,
I mean, if you were somebody who, it's not like you just fucking were walking on the street and then all of a sudden, everything just started dropping on your lap and shit. Like, yeah, I mean, you had a part in it, man. You put yourself, your dad, like, you know, your whole life was put together very well. And
yeah, like I said, I keep using the term. I aimed myself. Like when I was working for London Lee, you know, he and a writer of his by the name of Jules J.K. took me to the Improv in New York for the first time back in 1969, right?
Gotcha, yeah.
So then in 1976, when I came out here, and I went on and off throughout the years while I was in New York. And then in 1976, when I moved out here and Bud had opened the Improv in 75, I think, or right around the time I got there, maybe a little before I got there, I went and I saw him one night. He said, "Hey, how are you? You're here now?" I said, "Yeah, well, so am I. I'm here too." And so I just fit right in with my group of people.
Yeah. Yeah. How did you, with the Comedy Store, man, you know, like I said, like a lot of the history I had, knowing about the Comedy Store was, I think it was like the 80s generation. So it was like right after your, the 70 generation. How long did you kind of stay until you started witnessing the changes that came with the newer generations?
I left regularly performing there in 82 because I was writing so much and I had a lot of deals that I just didn't have time. In you know, in retrospect, part of me wishes I would have stayed doing stand-up more, you know, because I really love it. But I don't have any real regrets about shit. You know, I wish sometimes, but it's not like, oh my God, it doesn't eat away at me. Yeah. And then I just started writing so much that it was impossible for me to go out at night. I'd only go out, you know, a couple of nights a week on the weekends, and then I have to be in an office at 9:30 and 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, yeah. That's awesome. Mark, I'm not gonna keep you up any longer, man. Listen, I mean, your story is absolutely phenomenal, man. Thank you so much.
This is barely scratching the surface.
Really? Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, it's not like it's gonna stop. I mean, congratulations on having 72 years of just like experience and love and knowledge and
I don't know. Yeah, it's luck. A lot of luck.
A lot of luck, man. But yo, aimed luck, like you put it. I mean, you even gave me a change of mentality for this new year we're in right now, man. Beeline, guys. Listen, thank you guys so much. As you can see, man, we're starting the year off big, man. Mr. Mark's gracing us with his energy and his presence and his knowledge. It's been amazing. Mark, anything you got to say in closing here today, man?
No, just wish everybody a happy new year and hope everything works out. And please be safe and listen to the smart people and ignore the idiots.
Yeah, try your best, man. Try your best right now. Listen. But yo, listen, Beeline, thank you guys so much. If you want to follow Mr. Mark, you could definitely check him out. Mark, do you have anywhere, you know, you doing anything with social media or anything like that? Anybody
I'm on Instagram and I haven't posted anything in a while, but I am on Facebook and I post jokes almost daily.
Yeah, I just started following your Facebook too. I saw you had a lot of stuff on there. You post a bunch of stuff on there. So
yeah, I'm kind of outspoken, so you know, you never know.
Beautiful. Sounds great. Hey guys, I really hope you enjoyed this one. We got a lot more to come this year. It's going to be absolutely amazing. The Beeline is just going up and up and up and up and up and up, and it's not going down. Hopefully, it's not going down. I'm trying not to make it go down. But yo, listen, stay true, stay positive, pay attention, because that ain't never going to change. And we'll get at you.
People, if you got something to promote, let us know. We want ads to promote you. This year is all about level up season, baby. So let us put your ads on our show. Contact us today for more information so we can get you seen. That's what it's about. Thank you guys so much for watching, and don't forget, subscribe to the channel. Let's go.